I am Markus Klinko, and here is how I met David Bowie and shot the cover of the Hidden album. It was the late spring of 2001 when I met Angelina Jolie's famous makeup artist Paul Starr on a shoot for Interview magazine in New York. He asked me if I ever worked with Iman, another client of his, and suggested that he would take my portfolio over to our house, just a few blocks down the street from my studio. The next day, Iman called me on the phone and said that she wanted to meet me and talk about a project. I was very excited to see the legendary supermodel in person and was anxious to hear what she had in mind. When she arrived at the studio, I was shocked that she was even more stunning than the photos. She was very complimentary of my work and explained that she had been working on her first book, I Am Iman. She had contributions from virtually every great fashion photographer in the world already, from Helmut Newton to Steven Meisel, but she wanted me to shoot the cover of the book. I couldn't be more flattered, but also felt the pressure to create something amazing with her. We scheduled the shoot for the following week. The session was very successful. A couple days later, Iman returned to the studio to take a look over the edits with me, and to my great surprise, David Bowie came along to help choose the cover. He was every bit as charismatic and extraordinary as one can imagine, but really kind and lovely to talk to. David was very involved in the selection process and had a great eye for imagery. Both of them loved the photos. During the editing session, David casually mentioned that he might be working on a new album, and that perhaps he would call me to talk about shooting the cover for it. That sounded a bit too good to be true, and while I was hopeful that this could happen, I did not get my hopes up too high. Meanwhile, the terrible events of 9/11 took place less than a mile from my studio, and for a little while I even forgot about the prospect of shooting my first David Bowie album cover. Yet a few weeks after the tragedy, true to his word, Bowie called me. He's one of the very few celebrities that I have worked with who personally got involved and was extremely communicative and very hands-on in the process. He asked me if I could come over to a Broadway recording studio and listen to some tracks. I went over the next day. I wandered around the old, understated recording studio to find Bowie and his producer, Tony Visconti, in one of the rooms. Bowie said that he wanted to play some of the new songs for me before discussing the album art. The mental image of Bowie sitting by a window, smoking cigarettes while his producer played the rough mixes from the board, is a memory that I could never forget. After listening to almost the entire album together, we started talking about the shoot. He had many ideas and was very precise about them. David was very eager to get it all set up as quickly as possible and to shoot within a couple days. He returned to my studio the next day and brought a series of early Man Ray images that he was very interested in referencing in some way or another. He wanted to be styled in 40 suits. At that time, most of my work was very colorful, but David was profoundly visionary and believed that it would be interesting for me to produce a series of mainly black and white album images, as well as some color images for press. He's one of the most photogenic people ever, and almost every single shot looked incredible. Bowie knew exactly what poses and expressions to do in order to portray the character we discussed. It was very carefree and fun to shoot. During the following weeks, David often came by the studio to select and edit the photos. One day, he stopped by while I was shooting a British GQ editorial with a lot of male and female models running around in towels, and he said, "This reminds me of the 70s, and I remember nothing from the 70s." And then he laughed.